Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 28 of the Clappercast. It's November 11th, 2019, and I am Burke,
And I'm Sean.
and we got a lot to talk about. There was some juicy news that came out today, so I think that's probably where we should start off the episode, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the biggest news in the hockey world right now. So we'll stay topical and get right into it.
Yeah, so Sportsnet announced today that they would be parting ways with longtime correspondent, if you want to call him that, Don Cherry. So Grapes finally got himself fired. It was kind of
Yeah,
a matter of
and
time, but
yeah, it wasn't if, it was when, to be honest.
yeah,
And even if he left on his own terms per se, it was still going to be, well, they obviously didn't bring you back for a reason,
yeah.
because he would have kept doing it until the very end if it were up to him.
It was kind of a delayed response a bit, because originally Sportsnet came out and had that very corporate, we don't agree with Don's comments statement, and it was very very soft.
Their initial statement basically, like, you can tell where their focus was, because it started out with saying that it doesn't reflect Sportsnet views.
Hmm.
So it's like they're obviously, like, it's just covering their own side of it. They didn't really seem to care about what was actually said. It's just like, oh yeah, we don't agree with that, and that's their main focus.
That's Don being Don.
Exactly.
Ron McLean apologized. What was that, last night?
Yeah, he gave a bit of a solo apology on Hometown Hockey on Sunday, the day after it happened, which, in typical Ron McLean fashion, it was a fairly, I'll say, eloquent. He uses a lot of very, I don't know, it seems like higher class literature and references and stuff in what he says.
Yeah,
So
he's a
it was a very Ron McLean statement, but he acknowledged that he just sat by and let it happen. And to be honest, what this brought forth for me is that we've realized how Ron McLean got through like the 30 or 40 years of being beside Don Cherry. He doesn't actually pay attention to what Don's saying at any given time.
Yeah, and you
He
can't
just kind
blame
of
him.
sits there and nods.
I mean, I can't fault Ron McLean too much because over the years, Cherry has said a lot of weird shit. So,
Yeah,
um, Ron's kind of just used to that. So it's not like he has any obligation to step in right away and say, "Hey, you know what? You crossed the line," because
yeah,
um, that's just kind of how Coach's Corner went.
yeah. And hindsight's 2020. Like, is he really going to step in and say anything on live TV? Probably not. But he's at least acknowledged his place in it, and he's given his own seemingly sincere apology that, yeah, he sat by and let it happen. That wasn't right.
Yeah. FYI, I am watching the Capitals and Coyotes game right now, so if I'm a little bit distracted, that's why. Ekman Larson just went down with a bit of a high hit, I think. So, sorry to get off topic there, but
Keep an eye on that.
yeah. But yeah, today Sportsnet came out and fired Cherry on Remembrance Day, which is some salt in the wound because the whole thing was over Crapes' comments about people not wearing poppies,
Yep.
specifically immigrants to Canada, not taking part in Canadian culture and
Yep.
respecting our culture. Um, I don't agree. There's an interesting uh, thing that came out in the Toronto Sun. I'm not really familiar if the Toronto Sun is like basically a tabloid or not, but somebody
It's
from
not a
there,
great quality paper or
um,
whatever it is.
somebody from there said they spoke to Cherry about his firing, and he said, "Here's this quote: being fired on Remembrance Day does hurt because I would have liked to continue doing Coach's Corner. The problem is if I have to watch everything I say, it isn't Coach's Corner." I agree with that a bit, and that's kind of his shtick is like, you know, hot takes and some
Unfiltered
controversial
nonsense.
opinions, but that to me extends only to hockey.
Yes,
If you're starting to talk about society as a whole, that's not really why you're on Coach's Corner.
exactly.
So he's always been a large proponent of the military and, respecting veterans and current armed force service members. So this is kind of like right in line with him, especially being, such an older person. But there's really no place for that on a sports
No, no,
like
because
intermission
that's where
segment.
that's where his thing is, right? It's hockey, and yeah, his hot takes on hockey have always been very hot, but that was his shtick there. That was his shtick in hockey. And you want to keep doing that because you're in a hockey show? Okay, go ahead. But he's starting to really push on a lot of boundaries with what is and isn't okay to publicly say on national TV. And even in his hockey coverage over the years has been questionable at times. But now he's gone beyond hockey and into a full-on cultural thing, which is just way beyond the realm of what he was there for.
Yeah, you aren't getting your social news from John Cherry, who's got his finger on the pulse of Canadian society.
Not quite.
I mean, I get what his message probably was, is for more people to wear poppies and to respect, the military and the sacrifices that so many people have made for Canada and across the world. But to single out a certain demographic is never really a great idea.
Yes.
And it kind of defeats the purpose of the whole thing. So
he could have made like a really, really passionate and impactful speech about like the importance of the symbol of the poppy, like what its history is in the country, what it means to the identity of the country, and how it's developed over the last century.
Yeah.
But instead, he didn't just make a statement about that, about the poppy in general. He had to specifically say "you people." He had to say "you people who come to this country, you people who come to this land and enjoy our milk and honey," and that's where the issue is. That he's just singling out.
Well, he's just
and
being
calling
xenophobic.
and degrading others. Yeah, he's being xenophobic, racist, whichever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where a lot of the issue is, because he could have made a decent speech about the importance of the symbol, but the way he singled people out, not to mention, as we were talking about before, how it's not even related to hockey anymore.
No, but it's always been part of his. He's always done a big Remembrance Day thing, and he always honors, veterans and people. When we were in Afghanistan, he was always, bringing up people who unfortunately were killed in action or hurt, injured in action. And he's gone over to Afghanistan to visit troops, and he's done a lot for the military and stuff. And I get where he's coming from, but he's crossing over into old man yelling at cloud territory. So
yeah.
I mean, I honestly don't know if he's gonna be gone for good. Maybe from Sportsnet, but I feel like he's gonna be relevant still.
In some way, there'll probably be some way he'll find himself back into the limelight somewhere.
Yeah, the tinfoil hat inside of me. We saw Sportsnet kind of clean house before the season began. They fired a lot of people. So I'm wondering if they were just waiting for something.
I would be surprised. I mean, you can't just because didn't it almost came out over the summer that his contract wasn't going to be renewed, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And they were about to do that, but the backlash from all of us saying you can't just not do that to someone who's basically an institution in hockey. So they kind of backtracked and said, "Oh yeah, we're going to bring him back for another year or whatever."
Yeah, good call.
They apparently wanted him not to come back, so they just needed something to finally pull the trigger.
Yeah, that would make sense to me, because I mean, not to say that this is he's getting off light, or this was a tough call for them. It was a pretty easy one to dismiss him over this, but I think they probably would have been looking for just anything, just to get rid of him, because I don't know how expensive he would be as an employee, because he doesn't work very much, but he's been with the organization, or he's been with Hockey Night in Canada for long enough, and he's a pretty not respected, but he's a big hockey name. So,
well, I mean, in Canada, growing up, Sean Cherry, no, he wouldn't be cheap at all. So, I mean, in Canada, anyways, he is one of the most synonymous terms with hockey. Don Cherry and hockey go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So it is a big shock to the hockey world to see this happening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what their the future holds for both Don Cherry and for Coach's Corner if they bring somebody else in. It seems like they've kind of been grooming Brian Burke a little bit.
He seems to be the de facto replacement. He's got the same personality, but he's a little bit more reserved.
Yeah.
And in tune with current issues and hockey, or they can bring back George Stroumboulopoulos
Yeah.
because that
Yeah,
went
and
well
then
the
Ron
first time.
McLean would probably have a hissy fit there. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
yeah,
Like I honestly don't think that he's just gonna be done. I think he's either gonna get a job somewhere else or he'll come back in some fashion.
yeah.
We'll have to see, I guess.
You haven't seen the last of me.
Yeah. I mean, that being said, though, maybe he will just kind of, ride his horse off into the sunset because he's what, like 86 or something?
Yeah, I feel
Who
like he's too
knows?
proud and too like stubborn and set in his ways to do something like that.
Oh, probably. Oh, Kuznetsov just had a pretty amazing try on a breakaway. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty shocking to see him
Yeah.
get canned.
Oh, I'm not like when I saw the initial tweet, my jaw dropped. I was like, wow, they actually did it. Because based off of their initial response over the first couple, well, I guess the first day since it happened, that they didn't really seem to actually care. I'm
Yeah.
surprised they actually pulled through in the end and actually responded to it.
Did you see this thing where I guess Rogers has like a complaint department and they were basically being like, what's it called, DDoSed by all of the
Basically.
complaints
Yeah,
from
so
people about this?
so many people have complained to the Canada Broadcast Standards Council, the CBSC, about Don Cherry's comments on Saturday that the system won't be able to accept any further complaints because they cannot handle the quantity of complaints coming in.
Yeah,
So I
that's
guess that would be the equivalent of like the FCC type stuff in the US for when people swear on TV and you have to call it in.
yeah. I think
I'm
it
assuming
probably
that's
just
about an equivalent level of organization there.
I think what we saw is it became a business decision. It wasn't a
Yeah.
moral thing. Because if it was a moral thing, they would have came out right away and said, we're dismissing Don over this.
So
But
it absolutely was a
it
business thing.
became business because it was going to impact, their viewership, or maybe people were
Their
going to take
viewership
some
and
sort of
their
action.
I'm doing air quotes right now, their reputation.
Yeah, yeah, their
Like
reputation because
we
they have
saw
so
what they
much
actually care
competition.
about in yeah, we saw what they actually care about in the initial apology because all they said was like, oh, this doesn't reflect our views as a company.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Let's get back to some hockey news. So the other big thing, this came out, I think, yesterday, was Foligno getting suspended. So Columbus captain was suspended for a elbow to the head of Pierre-Edouard Bellemare of the Colorado Avalanche. What are your thoughts on that suspension?
I think it's a fair suspension. I think the hit was unnecessary and I think it was dirty. And that's kind of the exact type of hit that I don't want to see in the game anymore. And when you watch the replay, the way Foligno kind of cuts into him, throws the elbow up, and the upward force he gives himself into the contact are all like giant no-nos for me watching hockey, watching contact in hockey, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the elbow coming up is very dangerous, and
Hmm.
I'd imagine Belmar probably has a concussion because A, he was hit in the head by an elbow, and B, his head snapped into the ice pretty aggressively when
Yeah.
he landed. It looked pretty bad.
And
Um,
we also saw that fencing response.
yeah, exactly.
What looked
So
like it anyways. I'm not a doctor, but like the way his arms and stick were held up after the head contact on the ice
yeah, it's
were indicative of similar injuries.
yeah, the fencing response. If anyone doesn't know, is it's a common trope when people get hit in the head and they have a brain injury, is that your hands default to go in front of you, almost like you're blocking. It's just kind of like a nervous system thing to try and defend yourself. And when boxers or you know fighters or hockey players get hit in the head, they do that, and you see that all the time. It's pretty scary um, to thing to see. So hopefully Belmar's okay. I don't know what happened in that game. If he ended up coming back, I would imagine no, but I don't know for sure.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about the hit was, do you think the contact itself was even necessary? Watching the way how the two came into contact, did Foligno even need to like touch Belmar? Could he just skated by him?
Yeah, I mean it's well, like Bellemare was on his backhand and he's dumping the puck in, right? Um,
Something like that.
I don't think it was a necessary hit. The other thing is like Foligno like jumped a little bit and like clipped his skates and threw the elbow out. I think it was just really unnecessary hit in general.
Yeah.
Really high risk, you know. Um, it kind of looks like he was looking at the puck a little bit and then just tried to get into his like get into the front of Bellemare because Bellemare was like angled a little strange. I don't know. I think it wasn't really necessary, but that's
Yeah.
the sort of stuff that happens. You know, hockey's a fast game. It's tough. It's easy to break things down and to say like, how could you do this? But
Yeah.
you know, when you're
Well,
it's a split
that's the other
second.
thing. It's like we can sit here and watch Foligno in slow motion and be like, why did he do this? But it's a different thing when you're on the ice.
I don't think it was an
It's
intentional uh, head hunt. You know, I don't think he was going for the head hit. I think it just kind
no.
of the way that Bellemare was on his backhand turning into where Foligno was. It was just kind of a hard hit to line up, and he kind of misjudged it, and he put the
Yeah.
elbow right into his jaw. I think it was
Yeah.
just unfortunate. I
So
agree with the suspension, though. I think it's
yeah.
fair, based off of the
Yeah. So like this
severity
is
of the hit.
kind of like a learning, I guess a learning curve or learning experience for players as these types of hits get phased out, where it's like these types of kind of maybe borderline hits where you're kind of having trouble judging it going into it. It's going to be hard for players to change their instinctual response on whether or not to make the contact or how to approach it.
Hmm.
But stuff like this is kind of learning experiences for the players on like, okay, see that, and now the next time I get us into a situation like that, maybe don't make the hit or like approach it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean the onus is always on the player without the puck to hold up.
Yeah.
The person making the hit has to hold up, and if they don't, they're penalized. And he was assessed a 5 in a game for that, I think, um, or a 5 minute major, I guess, in the NHL.
Yeah, he got ejected. 5 minute in ejection. So
Oh yeah, 5 in a game ejection. Okay, yeah, fair. I think that was the right call and the right suspension.
yeah.
Like I said, I don't think it was intentional. It was just an unfortunate hit, but ultimately, Foligno has to let up on that play because it's a really unnecessary violent play.
Yes. Well said.
Um, moving on, I kind of just wanted to mention a few teams that are just buzzing right now. One of which is my Capitals. Another is the New York Islanders. They've actually both those teams have gone 9-0-1 in their last 10. So they've gotten a point in their last 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw the St. Louis Blues in that group as well, who are 9-1-0, and they're currently on a 7 game win streak.
It's pretty unreal.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Isles had 10 wins in a row, didn't they? Um,
I believe they hit 10, and then
and then they
their most
lost in
recent game against
OT.
Pittsburgh was an overtime loss. Yeah,
Yeah, so very impressive to them. There was a lot of question marks on if they were going to be the same defensively strong team
yeah,
under um, with new goalies. You know, they don't have Leonard there anymore. That was a bit of a question mark if Varlamov was going to be able to come in and help out. But I think Thomas Greiss has been pretty unreal for them. I don't know if Varlamov's been exceptional, but I think he's been at least average. So it's pretty nice that Barry Trotz is having the team
yeah.
succeed.
So I'm gonna just say that Grice has been slightly above average with a 942 save percentage and 1.88 goals against average.
That's pretty good.
So yeah,
Slightly, slightly above average.
slightly
Yep.
above average.
Yeah. Hot
Also, I would
take.
like to throw onto the Islanders that there were a lot of question marks around how they started the season because they were a bit slow as well.
Yep.
That they kind of stumbled out of the gate a little bit. They were hanging around 500 for the first 4 or 5 games there,
Hmm.
and then they hit that 10 game win streak, and now they're back up to fourth in the league.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Um, and then I wanted to mention a couple teams that are not doing so great. Um, Mostly this is just our weekly shit on New Jersey segment. Um, they're just really bad.
Yeah, they don't have much going on for them at all. They
I,
don't seem to
I
just have like any chemistry, or they don't look like a team, right?
no, they're definitely not Ottawa.
Yeah.
They they keep scratching Nikita Gusev, which is just mind-boggling to me, um, considering they're not really scoring. At least Jack Hughes is starting to get going a little bit, but man, I think that I mean, how many weeks ago is that when we said that Hines is kind of on the hot seat now? I think that
Couple weeks
shoe
into
is
the
gonna
year, so that's
drop.
probably a month.
It's got to drop soon if they're gonna do it.
We're hitting that kind of mid-November stage, about just under a quarter of the way into the year, and I think that's probably going to be the wake-up call for a lot of GMs to start making the moves that they need to, or that they've been sitting on for a couple of weeks. I don't
Yeah.
think Hines doesn't seem to be working out too well in New Jersey with this team,
No,
and
he's just garbage.
I think part of it is just they had a lot of turnover last offseason, and they're still trying to figure out how to work together as a team. But that's kind of what the coaches there are for, to help get a system in place for everyone to play together.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not doing a very great job with the team that he's got.
Yeah.
They're struggling on the power play. Their penalty kill is pretty bad. They're just there's some talent on that team, but they're just not making it happen.
Hmm.
So I I mean he's been there what like this is his fifth season there now, I think, Heinz. I could very easily see him getting fired like today or
Yeah,
tomorrow.
this is season 4.
Yeah, okay. Um,
Yeah, you think like within the next week here, next few days,
yeah, I think so.
could
I
start
think they got
seeing,
to do
yeah.
something pretty quick here. Um, Another one is De Beer or De Boer, however you want to say it, in
DeBoer,
San
yeah,
Jose. I think that his leash is getting pretty short.
I do
Yeah,
too.
they're not doing so hot.
They
Um,
haven't turned it around as much as they need to. I mean, they're on a 3-game win streak right now, but they also did that before they went and or right when Evander Kane came back, and then they kind of lost a whole bunch in a row again. So that's not
yeah,
really telling of anything yet. But they're 1 point ahead of New Jersey in the standings, 15 points in 18 games.
yeah,
Um, DeBoer's had 4. I think this is his 4th season as well in San Jose. And like he did have that one really great year. They went to the finals, but they haven't had any ultimate success yet.
no,
And with a team whose cup window is as close to the downswing as San Jose's, like they can't afford a season like this.
no, no. Yeah, Eric
Like
Carlson has
this
had a
team
lot
was
of
built for win
struggles,
now.
and
Yeah.
they made a lot of room for him to join the team. And I think that their depth really suffered because of that, and we're seeing that the consequences of that right now. They moved out a lot of guys who've been there for quite a while, and
Yeah, we're seeing the impact
Carlson
of like the loss of Pavelski, and like
mhm,
the loss of production from a guy like Joe Thornton, because
and
he's no longer
Donskoy's
the
depth.
80 point guy anymore. Yeah, and Donskoy is huge depth for them.
Yeah, and then Braun and Ryan on the back end.
Well,
Yeah, Eric
their back
Carlson.
end, I mean, yeah, and like their two best, most notable defensemen are very poor defensemen. They're just good at getting points.
Yeah, and Eric Carlson is minus 11 this year so far.
He
Um,
has a lot of points though.
he's got 11 points. It's I don't know. I think that De Boer has a longer leash than Hines does, but there's definitely not an assistant GM on the bench yet in San Jose. But I think it could happen pretty soon if they continue
How
to
about
play around 500 hockey here. They
yeah, how about in San Jose, how they've had how many years now to find like a better goalie than Martin Jones?
yeah, Jones has been bad.
He was good in the playoffs last year, and we're kind of like hoping maybe that's the turnaround for his career, because he's kind of been barely near average, if not below average, for 2 or 3 seasons,
Yeah,
and he has not turned that around yet. But they
no.
keep sticking with him year in year out. They don't even bring in like a high quality backup to kind of 1A 1B with him.
Yeah, and with all that money tied up in Burns and Carlson, that it's going to be tough to do now. I
Definitely.
mean, even in playoffs last year, Jones was bad and then good and then bad again.
Hmm.
It wasn't like he was consistently good. He just
Right, because
like
he
was.
started slow, and then he won them. He basically won them one of the series or one of the rounds
hmm
with
Yeah, he
with a
was.
few really good games, and then he kind of struggled again later on.
Yeah, yeah. So that's definitely a question mark for them is kind of when they'll move on from him because I don't think Aaron Dell is ready to be a starter in the NHL. I don't know if they have any prospects. I think San Jose on the whole kind of sucks with prospects. Like they don't have a pretty established pipeline bring guys up. I think they've got a few, but other than that, I don't think they don't have a talent surplus.
I don't have anyone in mind as a notable prospect for them, just off the top of my head though.
I think the only guy is like Gambrell, and he's kind of in the lineup right now. So I don't
Hmm.
know aside from that.
Well, even it
Um,
sucks even more because Ottawa's got their first round pick this year.
yeah, yeah, that's really bad.
So
Which could be, you know, it looks like it could be a high pick if the
there's a
Sharks
very real
continue to
chance.
play. Um, I know we sent out an Instagram post about this, but Dallas Stars
Yeah,
turning that ship around.
they've had a good stretch here. They are turning it around slowly. They're sitting 500 right now, points percentage.
Hmm.
And even though their star offensive players have not been producing yet, like Sagan and Radulov have been still bad. Sagan's got like 1 goal in his last 10 games or something crazy.
Hmm.
They're still winning games and they're doing it with depth offense, which is a very good sign right now,
Yeah, and Ben Bishop's been pretty good too.
as expected. Yeah, he after the way he played last season, they needed him to keep going with that, and he's done it so far.
Yeah, so there's still chance that they can be the pick that I selected them to be. There's still a
Yeah,
chance. I
your
was a little
predictions
dicey
can
there
stay out of the garbage for now.
for now. Um,
And yeah, I mean they're only 3 points out of a wild card spot right now too,
yeah, yeah. Is there any other
and the
teams
division.
that you wanted to kind of briefly discuss a bit?
How about we talk a little bit about how Toronto and Mike Babcock are utilizing their goalies after the news of Michael Hutchinson being placed on waivers today.
Yeah, I know Bob McKenzie had a little bit to say about some of this. Um, it's kind of like they're setting their backup goalies up to fail because they usually play on night two of a back-to-back. That's
Hmm.
kind of how Babcock's been using them. And
Hmm.
then everybody kind of acts surprised when the team plays like shit in front of him and he lets up some goals.
Yeah.
That happened to
So
Sparks and that's happened to Hutchinson now.
yeah, and last night, he ended up having an okay game by the end of it. But in the first period, there was a stretch where of the first 8 shots of the game, Hutchinson gave up 4 goals.
Hmm.
So the team was
Yep.
down immediately, which, it's going to happen to every goalie, but it's not the first time that performances like that are happening to him or to Toronto backups for that matter. We're seeing just like slowly we're getting more and more indication of Babcock's inability to like adapt as a coach, where he's so stuck in his ways and stuck in like what he's done in the past that he can't see that okay, maybe it's not working or maybe it's not going to be the best option for this particular situation, and he just does it because that's what he's always done. Because
Yeah,
I
it's
think his backup usage started back in Detroit when he had like Hasek and Osgood, or like
mhm.
two really good goalies or something like that, where it's like either of them's going to be fine in any game no matter what, really. Or he had a good enough defense to cover a weaker goalie on a bad night.
Yeah, definitely had some better defensive players. Um,
Yeah,
I'm just trying to look up a stat. I think I saw something where the Leafs had like 30 shots in the third. Didn't they have like an insane amount of shots?
my goodness,
Um,
last night.
yeah, because Leonard ended up having 53 saves. Um, I can't find it, but it's just kind of like the team didn't play very well in the first like 2/3 of the game, and then tried to pour it on at the end. But that's
Yeah,
not.
so they do that thing where it's like, oh wait, we're playing hockey right now, and then all of a sudden decide to try and fix it.
Yeah, it's kind of rough. Um, yeah, it's like they're setting them up to fail. It's not very great. Um,
No.
it's just use Anderson so much that your backup goalie never plays unless it's in a tough spot the second night of a back-to-back. Like he doesn't play like probably like 10 games in a row and then you throw him in. Anyone's going to be a little bit rusty because they're not getting that valuable game time, right? And
Exactly.
And we've seen it a lot
So
with goalies getting into playoffs and they're burnt out. So that's a very real risk for Anderson again.
exactly.
Will he have the stamina to play well in playoffs?
And over the years, as we've seen, most goalies don't. It doesn't matter who you are. That
Mm,
after the goalie plays like 70, 80 games in a season, they start to wear out.
yeah,
Like even the best in the league, like they seem to do better when they play 50 to 60 because then they're well rested enough through the year to make it through the playoffs at about the same level,
yeah, yeah. Poor Hutchinson.
basically. So
So
yeah, he's on waivers now. I can't imagine he gets claimed. I don't think anyone's looking for a goalie per se, unless the Avalanche maybe want to pick someone up
yeah,
as a better option than I can't even think of
Frank
his name. Is it
Coos.
Frank Coos, I think? Yeah, as a better option than him,
Yeah,
who I think he's been doing okay, but the team's been struggling a bit, so they might want to do a little shakeup without giving up too much.
yeah, because Grubauer's hurt too, so they might want somebody else in there too. So
Exactly. Oh yeah, I forgot about Grubauer being hurt.
Casimir Kasuo, is that how you say it? Kaskasuo is coming up for the Marlies to be the backup in Toronto.
So have fun in the deep end, Casimir.
Yeah,
I hope you
have
know how to
fun
swim.
on yeah, have fun on night 2 of back-to-backs with the
We'll make
team
sure
that
that you get
plays
to
like
play against
garbage in front
Washington.
of you and doesn't have any defense. Yeah, we'll play you against high-scoring teams.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The only way to do it.
yeah. Also, quickly, some other disappointing news coming out of Toronto is that Mitch Marner is going to be out a minimum of 4 weeks.
Thanks,
So
Paul.
so
I'll
they'll
just
be
blame it
putting
on him.
him on the LTIR, which will help them when they have Hyman coming back up, because that was kind of a question mark what was going to happen when everybody was back ready to be in the lineup. They're going to have to move some people around.
Should I go grab my tinfoil hat here, or are we okay?
I mean, we saw the injury happen. It wasn't like
So
he's on
okay,
Robida
okay.
Island or anything. No Joffrey Lupul mystery illness
Okay, so I'll leave the tinfoil
situation.
hat in the cupboard for now then.
Yeah.
We'll save
Um,
her for when Marner's got to come back, and then we'll see what happens.
yeah. Yeah, let's LTIR Marner so we can fit Hyman into the situation.
Well, they
Um,
need that grit though.
yeah. Yeah. This is good news for Jason Spezza because there was a lot of speculation that he was going to be the odd man out and that they were going to probably try and either just put him through waivers or trade him or anything because he's not really getting along with Babcock's system. He's
Hmm.
never really been a super defensive forward in his career. So to try and make him be a fourth line guy now seems kind of suspect.
Hmm. Well, he could be a
um,
fourth line guy, just not in a Mike Babcock fourth line.
yeah, definitely,
Because
definitely.
some teams have like a more skilled fourth line where it's just kind of like
Not
some depth
Babs.
offense, but it's not Babcock. No, he's gotta have a grindy fourth line, which that
Yeah,
like Spets
uh,
is not that type of player, like you said.
yeah, he's not a traditional fourth line player. So yeah, so that's kind of shitty for the Leafs though. That Marner has been, he's a good player for them. To put it really obviously,
Yeah,
he
well,
plays
like
power play, he plays penalty
yeah,
kill,
he does everything.
plays some huge minutes. And after that whole contract thing, it sucks that he's going to be gone for an entire month.
Yeah, and when the team like they've sort of just started to turn it back around a little bit, um, it sucks to see him have to miss the next month when they probably need him most to kind of keep things rolling a little bit here.
Definitely. Quickly, we were just talking about, the Stars not having their top line produce very well.
Right.
Um, I have a quote here that I found from Jim Montgomery. So he was asked, "Are you disappointed with the scoring of your top players?" Montgomery said, "Very disappointed." And then he was asked, "Are you seeing signs of progress?" And he said, "No, are you?" So
Ouch.
a little bit of frustration there.
So
That
what's the
was
over under on
yesterday.
when Jim Lights calls him out again?
I'd say 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah,
I think that's reasonable. It's kind of
I
the
take uh I take the under on that.
it's got to be pretty soon. So there's obvious frustration in the organization with the performance of guys like Sagan and Radulov.
Yeah, Jamie
So
Benn is on pace for 27 points.
to be okay for Jamie Benn, he's always been more of like a power forward. That player
Hmm.
type has seems to have a notorious drop off. Like once they kind of hit like their early 30s, so many of them just kind of drop off completely, like all of a sudden.
But 9.5 million.
You can't, yeah,
That's kind of rough.
it is,
Um,
it is. And it sucks to
yeah,
see because he was such a good player, like what, 3 seasons ago, 4 years ago, and he won the year at Ross.
yeah, yeah. I know. Hintz is hurt, so they might have a little bit of more struggles with scoring now. Just quick note: Sagan, Ben, Pavelski are the three highest paid guys on the team. Altogether, collectively, they've scored 7 goals.
Oof.
It's Rupe
Yeah,
Hintz is on an entry level contract. He's scored 9.
that's hard. That's hard to. It's surprising they're doing as okay as they are now in this
Yeah.
stretch, anyways. But damn, they really need those guys to get it going right away.
Yeah. A bright spot. I mean, they're winning and playing well, but a bright spot for them is that uh, Denis Gurianov, has come up, um, and he's actually been playing really well. He's like a bigger. He's kind
Yeah,
of like a mini
he's been a
power
bright spot on their
forwards
offense.
type player,
Hmm.
and he's been scoring, which is cool. So hopefully he can continue to help their offense out with the lack of um, contributions from their top line. But when that top line does get going, they are scary. So uh,
Watching those three, like, or I guess it's usually like Sagan and Radulov, watching those two in OT
mhm.
is absolutely frightening.
Yeah, they've scored 2 goals that are like the exact same against the Capitals in OT. I can just picture it in my mind. It's just like Radulov
Yeah,
going behind the net, passing it to Sagan
yeah,
for like
it's
a
just the
tap
same
in
play,
goal.
and it works because they're just
Yeah.
so good and so like they know what they're so in tune with what they're doing that it just works no matter what.
Yeah. So I have something that I want to ask you about. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Jesse Puljujärvi said
Ha.
today or yesterday that he wants to play 100% of the season in Finland. I
Hmm.
wanted to see if you thought that that was like new or just kind of, saying what everybody already knows or what.
We It seemed to be that that was going to be the action that was taken because Ken Holland is not rushing to trade Puljujärvi, and Puljujärvi is not coming back to Edmonton. So the default assumption is that okay, he's just going to spend the season over in Finland. But now that he's come out and said it, then I guess there's no question that even if he does get a trade and a contract in the next like 3 weeks until the December 1st deadline, that he's going to spend the whole season there regardless, which I'm totally fine with because I'd rather have Holland not rush into taking an underpayment on him just to get him out of the organization for whatever reason because he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
It's like ultimately it's Holland's decision, and he's not going to just make a reactionary move when I'm pretty sure he went into it with the mindset that he wanted to bring Yessi back into like a new culture, give him a bit of a fresh start, and be like, okay, we're going to develop you properly, or start to develop you properly, anyways. And yes, he just kind of wanted like top 6 minutes, and it just wasn't going to work in Edmonton.
No,
And
excuse me,
I
that's
can't
real
imagine too
deal.
many. Yeah, I can't imagine too many other NHL teams are going to be able to give him that either. So it's going to be hard to trade him for anything worthwhile.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think he'll probably just sit this one out.
It seems like that. And to be honest, like he's doing well in Finland.
Hmm.
Like I think he's one of his team's leading scorers, if not the leading scorer. And I think it's probably a good year for him just to kind of find his game a little bit.
Yeah, he should be. He should be the leading scorer. um, so yeah, the Oilers are doing really well without him. So why change it, right? Like you
Exactly.
said, why rush anything because we don't need him? And the only thing I can think of is if you needed depth to call him up, but he's not going to play in the AHL. So
No, no, I think he made that clear. Like he wasn't willing to sign that if he knew he was getting sent down.
which is entitled.
A little
Pretty
bit.
dumb. Yeah. So
He's never exactly gotten a shot to prove himself, but he's never actually earned it either.
yeah.
So there's a little bit of a, you can't just because you are third overall or third or fourth overall pick or whatever, I guess third, or fourth. I'm forgetting. Yeah, just because you are the overall pick, you don't
Yeah.
just get the minutes. And after 2 years, 2 or 3 years, when he never really does a whole lot, he's not just going to get the ice time.
I'm watching this game. Grabner scored a breakaway goal, and it wasn't shorthanded. That's kind of
This isn't
surprising.
reality.
Yeah, TJ Oshie with a huge assist on that one. Well, that's kind of everything I had on my list, Sean. Is there anything else that you wanted to go over?
I wanted to make one quick note about watching the play of Leon Draisaitl this year, since we transitioned over to the Oilers briefly. I got to make sure I mention them a little bit.
Oilers
But
talk.
yeah, watching Leon Draisaitl and his game and what he's doing now compared to in previous years. He's always been like a huge player with just an intimidating presence and build on the ice. But this year he is finally learning how to use that size to his advantage. And you're gonna see it a lot when he's playing around the boards, that he will stop with his back out to the player that's trying to attack him, and he can just block the entirety of the area around the puck and get around them just by doing that. And he can protect the possession, maintain it, and just generate so much offense off of little moves like that to throw the guys and shake them off when they're trying to get the puck off of him. That it's just such a huge addition to his game that it's boding really well for him, as he's still leading the league in scoring.
Yeah, he's got like 32 points or something.
Yeah, something crazy like that.
He is. I'm so glad I have him on my fantasy team.
I'm so glad that I was wrong. I didn't think he was going to replicate last year.
Well,
I
so
thought they were
far
all
so
going to kind of
good.
regress with a new system. But yeah, no, I'm so glad I was wrong on that.
Don't underestimate the impact of real deal James Neal, Sean.
No, not at all. I also forgot about Dry, which I can't be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no question he has been one of the best players in the league so far.
Easily, if not the.
Yeah. Like I said, my fantasy team thanks him for his services. He has been winning me games. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Is there anything else that you wanted to go over? I'm pretty much tapped out here.
I think that wraps it up for this week.
All right. Well,
So
I'll let you take
once
it away.
again, thank you all for listening again this week. Make sure to keep up to date on any content and any things we post on social media. You can follow us on Instagram at Clappercast Media and on Twitter at Clappercast, and there you'll just kind of see any content we post through the week, any random updates on hockey news that happen, and whatever fun stuff we decide to post. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.